Hello, this is Tim Cummins. So, the end of week 2, and a couple of areas that I found particularly interesting in terms of the comments this week. One that I'm going to talk about is the whole issue around stakeholders and stakeholder management, and the other one is around automation, artificial intelligence, and technology. So, stakeholders. Well, there were certainly some great comments and observations. Many of you clearly enjoyed that particular section. Stakeholder management is one of those things which is absolutely fundamental to good commercial business management and judgment. In other words, just as in everyday life, if we don't consider the views and opinions of those around us, we are of course likely to generate some unexpected results and reactions, sometimes favourable, but unfortunately very often perhaps less favourable. And so it is with the contracts we enter into. We don't do those in isolation. They represent a range of commitments and promises, activities that are going to be generated as a result of that contract. Many people may be affected by that. Just a quick example which struck me as a great example, in fact, of the challenge of stakeholder management in a digital age, and will lead us perhaps therefore into that technology discussion. There was a local authority in the UK that decided that it was going to make money by a large waste incinerator, and it was going to bring in waste from a number of neighbouring authorities, and therefore had these plans to invest in this giant incinerator. Now, from an economics point of view, from the point of view of theoretical interest of the ratepayers, that was actually probably a very good idea. But as you can imagine, the people who were going to be living anywhere near that incinerator really didn't appreciate the idea. I don't know exactly what happened, but certainly the way the stories emerged in the media, many of those local stakeholders were not consulted, or if they were consulted, their views were ignored. Now, in this digital age, ignoring anybody's view can be the route to real danger or disaster. And in this particular case, people didn't just sit down. They started campaigns on the media, they started various petitions, and they started to generate interest from all sorts of quarters, of course many of them nothing related to that geographic region, but they were able to build on their issues because they actually found that a similar development in Australia had been proven to be environmentally unsafe. So suddenly, what had been a minor campaign generated by a few people in a rural county in England became an international campaign. I think it's a great example of the risks of not thinking about stakeholders in an inclusive way. And one of the points I made in one of my written responses is this doesn't mean that we can always keep everybody happy. That's not what it's about. This is about intelligent planning and thinking about who can help me, who could potentially derail this, how do I neutralize or get people on side, how do I address their needs, are those needs valid? If they are, I better make sure that I've thought them through and worked out how to deal with them. So that, as I said, brings us neatly, I think, onto the technology topic, because, of course, it's a great example of how technology is changing the whole art and science of doing contracts and managing projects. So digital technologies are going to be impacting the world of contracts as they are everywhere else. And one of the big problems today is that contracts and the process of their writing and their interpretation remains very much embedded in the artisan age, in the analog age, where you need specialists exercising specialist judgment in order to draft the terms according to the way that they believe a court would interpret them. And all of this, of course, is absolute nonsense. It's something that has to radically and rapidly change, because the contracting process today is unintelligible to most people, it's undesirable to most people, and yet formulating agreements that people can understand, that they can work towards, that they can use, is of fundamental importance. And again, let me give you a quick story. In South Africa, there are a large number of fruit farms, and of course they require a large number of labourers to undertake fruit picking. Now, there are some very clear and understandable rules for those fruit pickers, particularly given today's environmental concerns and health and safety issues, the need to have traceability in all the goods that come into our markets. So there are, as you might expect and would probably want to be the case, there are rigid and rigorous employment contracts for those workers around the ways they behave, their health and hygiene, but also their working practices, their attendance at work, and so on. The problem is that many of those workers are semi-literate, so giving them a standard contract to sign while they were willing to sign it was of course utterly ineffective in terms of getting them to perform against the rules. That is until a creative lawyer realized that actually turning that employment agreement into pictures, into comic strips, was going to have dramatically more effect, and indeed that proved to be the case. Now, I'm not saying that every contract is going to become a comic strip, but we are seeing more and more use of digital technology to simplify, to introduce visual items, graphics, flowcharts, and other techniques whereby, rather like with self-assembly furniture, you can look at a video and work out what you're meant to be doing. The same needs to apply in our world of contracting. So yes, we're in for revolutionary change. That's just one example, but certainly this whole world of contracting is going to be changing in new and very exciting ways in the imminent future. So thanks again everybody for watching this and for your participation in the MOOC and for all the very positive messages you've been giving. I'm glad that so many of you are getting so much from it, and we certainly look forward to your further comments in week 3. Bye for now.